Oh, I wonder, need to put this in here so that we can use the microphone. Hello, everybody. Come on in. I figured I'd get started so I make sure I have everything set up correctly. I think we need this in there, and then we should have a mic, and hopefully it lasts for today. Okay. Hopefully. Oh, I don't want that. There we go. Okay, comments. All right. Hi, everybody. So come in, say hello. I'm hoping we have everything set up correctly, that you can hear me. And we're going to get started with today's workshop in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to grab my drink. Hello, Judy. Yay, more Pennsylvania peeps. That's exciting. Is my mic working? Like, you guys hearing my mic, or do you feel like it just sounds like normal? Hi, Sarah. I'm really excited to be doing this again, and we have brand new information. So even if you watched the last one, we're gonna do the whole thing from scratch, all over again. So it won't be the same like trend information and stuff like that. It'll be new stuff that I've been researching and discovering. That'll be good for 2026. Hi, Penny. I'm going to be going back and forth because I feel like there's now on my phone, when I'm like looking over here, there's like a little thing over top of your comments. So I'm going to have to be going back and forth. But I am very excited to be sharing with all of you this Threaded Trends workshop for the second time in a row. Just a little housekeeping stuff so that you know this workshop will remain up on my YouTube channel for 30 days. Okay, so I think this might be the last time we do this workshop this year because as the summer comes, many of you who follow me for a while know the summer is when I'm dyeing fabric. So I doubt I'll be doing it. And we have other workshops planned, some sewing workshops. And then the fall and the holidays are just busy life-wise, right? Hi, April. So this will probably be the last time this year that I do this workshop. And where I began with this is my background is in ethical fashion and sales and marketing, primarily within the type of trend world of fashion. So I'm basically sharing with you all of the things that I learned over that decade or so of my life of working in that industry, on how to discover trends and how to build releases or collections for yourself and your handmade business. I really have found having a handmade business, both when I did do markets, it was really helpful there, but also now as a handmade business owner, and I hate calling myself this, but I guess an influencer. It is really helpful to have learned these things. So I'm hoping that what all of you can take away from this is if you do have a handmade business, if you do sell on Etsy, or you do markets, or maybe you have a commission like section of a local shop, that you can help. This can help you kind of build those collections that you sell and that they sell for you, in different ways to market and share them. So first things first, I'm going to share a little bit if you haven't already gone and grabbed it. So first thing is the workbook. if you signed up for this workshop, when you go to my website and you click on workshops, you'll see that at the very top, there's a place where you could sign up for this workshop. If you signed up for this workshop, either prior, the first one we did, or if you were new this time around and you signed up for this, you did receive an email where you could download this workbook for free. Okay, so that will still work for the next 30 days. So if you do want to get this workbook, it's basically what we're going over, and it's a way. I am an elder millennial, so I do like to write things down. So this is a great tool for you to use in building it, and it's a rinse and repeat. So once you have it, you don't need it a second and third time. You can always download it again and again. Okay, so definitely if you didn't grab this, grab this. The other nice tool that I do have in my shop that I do use every time I do this for myself is a color wheel. All right. And now, and this color wheel, like you could find this on Amazon and stuff. They're actually cheaper on my website. So if there's other things you've been looking at on my website and you want to do this process, I suggest adding one of these to your order. But it is also under that workshops tab on my website where you can get your color wheel. So there's that. And then as we prepare for another print pre-order, our first, our pre-order for summer will be happening starting on April 23rd. And if you want to be able to feel and touch all the different types of fabrics that we offer, then you want to make sure that you get your fabric sample pack. So as long as you sign up for our email list, or if you go look at the FAQs page of my website, you'll see on the FAQs page of my website, the very top, the fabric sample packs. And if you read that, you'll see there is a coupon code for you to receive a fabric sample pack for free. You just pay shipping. So I highly suggest having a fabric sample pack. This is also great when you're building a collection or working on something for the future. Many times along with like palettes and design, textures are also a big trend. So looking at like what types of textures do I want to build into this, having fabric samples is really, really helpful for that. So definitely go over to our website, make sure you're signed up and get the workbook. The color wheel is great. And then the fabric sample pack. We're one of, I think, very few shops that offer something like this, but I do really find it to be very beneficial when you are building a collection. So first thing I would love to know in the comments is if you are a handmade business, or if you're thinking about it, I'd like to know how you plan on selling, or if you already are selling, like what is the avenue that you're selling? Is it a consignment place? Is it an Etsy site? Is it your own website? Is it a Facebook group where you're going live and sharing and demonstrating your different products? Is it markets and craft fairs? And if it's a little bit of all of them, you can say a little bit of all of them. But if there is a specific place that you're trying to focus on right now, I'd love to know what is your specific place you're trying to focus. Okay, I'm going to actually move my phone. Let's see here. I'm going to move it over here because you guys are going to have to see. Don't mind the mess in the back. My sewing room is a little messy right now. But I'm going to have to move you guys so you can see the screen of my computer throughout this. So I'm moving you over here so I can see this. All right. So I'm very excited. One of the things, if you did sign up for this, you probably received an email telling you whether if you might have only received it the first time. If you were signed up for this workshop prior to come to the first one, you would have got this email the first time around. Print magazines are such a great way to discover trends that are going to happen in the future. Like I said, one of my personal journey with this is working in ethical fashion, helping with building design, also sales and marketing for large teams that were also selling fashion throughout the United States. And I would always be a part of our design team and building our next releases. And it was amazing to me, even though I knew that you obviously had to prepare in advance, that these collections that are released were prepared months, sometimes years in advance. And now with current situations in the world, I would foresee that they're even being planned even further in advance, just because of all different things that could happen within that time frame. But I love the fact that pretty much every designer that I've worked with didn't only use digital um, resources to kind of be inspired. That print magazine is actually the place where you are seeing the projections of what's going to be in style. Like this time of year, really what's in magazines right now won't hit what I'll say is the average marketplace until next year, actually. And I guess whispers of it, not necessarily the exact design that you're seeing in those magazines, but you're going to see pieces of it. A kind of like if I think back to last year, something that I was seeing everywhere, I posted it on my Instagram. All the magazines I was looking at, home decor, fashion, pretty much everywhere I was seeing scallops. So scallops like half moon circles, and pretty defined half moon circles, not like slanted. What's interesting now in some of the magazines I've been looking at is I'm seeing more of like a crescent moon, not necessarily a half moon. And so that's another way like trends kind of work their way out, is they have progressions of themselves. So April, I am opening my own website. Yay for you. And she has a stall at a local consignment shop. And Hazel says she has her own website. Website development, you guys, is a whole other thing. It's a lot of work. And so I just really want to encourage you, because it is nice to have something that you own yourself. And I can't stress enough about building that email list, finding ways to do that. So the first place that I'm going to start is kind of within the print media area, and share with you. I purchased 3 different magazines from the last time I did this trend workshop. And one of the things that I always like to tell everybody, these magazines that I pulled do not have to be the magazines that you get. I think it's really important that we remember, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of brand identity or anything like that. But I think one of the big important things to remember is your brand really is speaking mostly to you, and that there are people out there who will relate to those things and relate to you. To not try to make yourself like someone else. Okay. It is one of the biggest struggles, I think, for many entrepreneurs, is to not like kind of veer off and look at somebody else's business and be like, oh, they look like they're so successful. Maybe I should make my brand look just like theirs. But the problem is that brand might not be your vibe. You might not be able to speak to it like you could speak to something that is really corely you. So I really recommend that when you go and look for magazines, that they be magazines that you yourself would sit and enjoy looking at, reading, etc. Because that is really where you're going to find like the imagery and the trends that are going to align more with your business. Okay, does that make sense? I don't know if that's something anybody else has dealt with in their business, but I know for myself that is definitely something that I've dealt with, and still, imposter syndrome is the worst. So the 3 magazines that I picked up. So first, I would recommend that you get at least one home decor magazine. Home decor, you might be wondering, like, this is for bag makers, right? This is for handmade businesses. Why would I be, if I'm a bag maker, why would I want a home decor magazine? Wouldn't I want all fashion magazines? No. Home decor is really where fashion trends begin. And you might not wear this same like design that's on this pillow sham as on an outfit, right? But elements of home decor end up in our fashion. So definitely at least one home decor magazine. I always recommend that. Then I do recommend one high fashion magazine. These are a little bit harder, when I say to read, harder to kind of connect where the trends are, because a lot of times it's on such like a artistic level, abstract level of what the fashion trend is going to be. But I do recommend at least one like high fashion magazine. And I usually recommend trying to grab the ones that are like European, like from another country, that it's their edition, because that also is helping with projecting trends, because it takes so long for those trends to make it here to us in the States. And then I usually try to, this is one that I try to get for myself, but an outlier magazine, something that you would maybe not think would pull trends, like music magazines, sports magazines, things like that, depending on your personality, your personal preference. I suggest maybe trying to find like an outlier type of magazine. And for me, I usually get Rolling Stone, only because I do feel like some of my stuff sometimes can have an edgy tone to it. Like I said, I'm also an elder millennial. So a lot of the things in Rolling Stone are like, there's interesting kind of activist type of things. So, I usually try to grab Rolling Stone as well. So I'm going to go through these magazines and kind of just show you like the things that I pull out. I always grab a pack of Post-its, and I sit and write on the Post-its what I'm seeing and just slap them in the magazine until I'm done going through all three of them. April says, it's so hard not to compare yourself, but I find that when I'm making what I love, my followers fall in love with it too. Totally. Yeah, it really is so important that you kind of remain to your truth, okay? Because that really is so important. People will recognize when you aren't aligned with, um, what your focus is. And then also the other thing I've found when I kind of start veering into another lane is it's not as fulfilling for me and not as life giving to me. I don't necessarily want to be doing it, right? And so I would really encourage you to try to follow that path of trying to just do the things you love to do. So we are going to go through these so that you can kind of see what I pulled. So here I'm on, this is one of the reasons I love home decor, is home decor will really speak to color. And that's one of the things I love trying to do. I love trying to predict the colors of the year. So if you're familiar with Pantone has a color of the year, Kona Cotton has a color of the year. Different paint companies have colors of the year. Etsy has its own color of the year. So I try to kind of, while I'm doing this process, I usually am able to pinpoint at least like the top 4 or 5 that potentially could be the color of the year. And what I will say for this year, the Mocha Mousse, I wasn't shocked that Pantone picked that because they had picked some really bold colors over the years. It wasn't my first pick actually for the color of the year. It was more what Kona predicted. There was a purple. There was also a really deep, deep red, which was Rogue from Behr, the paint company. And so those were colors that were all coming up in magazines that I had looked at last spring. Even though they were in last spring's magazines, they were not the colors you were seeing on everything, but it was progressively becoming more of those colors. So I highly recommend at least one home decor magazine just because they really focus on color, and because it can be really helpful. So this spread here has color of the year, right? Which it's not the color of the year. And that it is African violet. So Benjamin Moore chose African violet as their color. So it must be their, like I said, paints have different colors. But this one is kind of the color I pulled out to start my collection. So if you look on in your workbook, one of the first pages is all about color theory. So this page here. Oh, let's see. I just realized I don't have my phone on Do Not Disturb. One moment, please. I don't need us getting a phone call. All right. So at the very top here, I have turn the color wheel to your favorite color. What are its complementary colors or split comp colors? So you can kind of build a color palette. And so when I am looking at the violet family, because that is where the African violet will be. This here will help me see, okay, what are my complementary colors? So yellow. So definitely in this picture, I'm going to hold it up again. In this picture, you're going to see that they are pulling some yellows into this. Not a lot, but they are pulling yellows because that's traditionally the complementary color. Then there's split comps. So split comps are the ones on either side of your complementary colors. And there's definitely some greens. There is definitely some more oranges that are showing up in here. But those are like the color palettes that are showing up on here. So what I'm going to do now is when I'm going to start sharing my screen here for you all. All right, so here on my computer, I have up for me, this is the Canva color wheel. All right, so it's just canva.com color dash wheel. And I will pop that in here for you. Okay, so I'm going to pull this into more of the light area, and I want to get a violet color, an African violet color, so real light. Okay, so what this allows me to see now is as I manipulate these different areas, I'm able to see that this here, it is in the yellow family right now. It always reverts back to the darker. But it also has, like, it's showing, green as my complementary. Monochromatic would be a little bit darker. This is just I use this a lot when I am trying to find colors in my stash that are going to go well with things. So I highly recommend this if you don't have a regular color wheel. What I like about the physical color wheel is many times, like if I'm going through and I'm like, okay, I have right now, I'm doing like, so let's say I'm doing like a red, or maybe even better, let's do this red orange, because that is kind of what I am doing right now. So here, I'm using this, I'm making a scout from Evergreen Threads, and a lot of the colorway in here is red orange. But what I'm seeing in here is all of these different colors will work. I also could be pulling in a blue green if I wanted to, and that would go well. I'm also, if I want tint or shade or tone, right, I would maybe look more in my like triadic colors that are more in like the red families, right? And look what color I'm using on the back. I'm using more of a burgundy color. So this is a really helpful little online tool that I encourage you to check out and use. And it's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. So I highly recommend doing that. So what I would write here is I would write African violet, and then I would put like probably oranges, yellows, teals. Like I would build my color palette. I would write that here because I'm going to figure out what is my triadic color, what is my Angolius color, and what is my monochromatic color. That's helping me kind of build out what is my coordinating colors, what are the other colors that I'm going to be able to use. The other thing you can do if you have paid Chat GPT, okay, so I'm going to, even now I can take a screenshot of this color. All right. So say I want ChatGPT to create a coordinating color palette for me for this color African Violet. So create a coordinating color palette for this color African Violet. This here will also give you some words you can use when you're marketing. So like dreamy, muted lavender, a touch of blue. It allows you to kind of dive more into what other wording you can use. But here is saying like a pearl color, a pink shell color, a midnight navy color, mint greens, like a sea foam. All of these colors would be a plum color would go really well with this. So it helps you kind of think outside the box when it comes to the colors that you're choosing to go along with something. Because I think sometimes just from this and the magazine, it can be hard to be like, well, what am I going to use from my stash that even if I like this color, how am I pulling that into everything else? So I really do like using ChatGPT and the color wheel as help to do that. Does that make sense, you guys? Is that helpful? Hi, Sarah. I'm so glad that you think that it's helpful. But that's basically what I do. So like here, if I go through, so like this was kind of a reminder for me, always with Chinese New Year, whatever the symbol is for Chinese New Year, you're usually going to see that symbol of that animal in a variety of things. One thing that I'm definitely seeing that's continuing to transfer from this year to next year is denims. Denims are definitely going to continue to grow in popularity, and all different types of denims, whether it be like 80s acid wash type of denim to like deep dark, kind of, what do I want to say, like farmer overall denim. And that's a continued trend from last year to this year, where you're seeing it in everything from fashion to home decor, variety of places you're seeing denims being used. Also quilting, things being having that quilted look. The other thing, like, so here I'll share like the high fashion magazine. When I was going through this one, sometimes what I'll look for, and this kind of shows what I was seeing. So here's a layout. Okay, so she kind of has like a suit with like a frilly bow, kind of feminine, masculine. Then I go to this ad, also feminine, masculine. So there's a lot of that kind of vibe of not overly feminine, a lot of jackets, a lot of blacks and whites, not a lot of oversized lapels. So if you're in apparel, like those could be things that you look for. So I do write down all of those. What else here? Ruffles. So that kind of softcore girl trend mixed with masculine things. So thinking about how does that transfer into the design of what you plan to create, is a lot of what I got from the high fashion magazine. Like here, there's, if you can, I probably can't see it, but her sweater here is all little scallops or like scales, so the whole dragon core thing is a big deal. That will continue to show up. I'm seeing a lot more of like frilly, dainty things. That was a little bit last year I was seeing that, and I'm seeing a lot more of it this year, moving in to this summer. And then in the hard rock, one of the things that I wrote down in here was if the other thing that makes trends happen is pop culture trend things. It doesn't have to mean that your brand is pop culture, but there's elements within what is happening in pop culture that make their way into everything else. And so I just kind of posted here. There's a huge article in the oh my gosh, Rolling Stone, that's all about Selena Gomez and Benny. And you know, I have a feeling that that's going to be a continued, to just remind me to follow them and to kind of watch like what are they sharing and so forth. So that is the magazine part. I highly recommend that you do this. I get my magazines at Barnes and Noble because it is very difficult to find print magazines anymore. Maybe, and a lot of times the only print magazines that are at like grocery stores anymore are like the tabloid type of magazines. But if you can get magazines, I highly recommend that you do grab some magazines. All right. Next piece that I want to share is Pinterest. Pinterest, I cannot stress enough. I need my notes here so I make sure I'm hitting every topic. I cannot stress enough how important it is, if you are a handmade maker, to be on Pinterest. It truly is the one social media that I think so many handmade makers forget about. You might use it to pin your recipes, but it is really, really an important place for you to be as a handmade maker. Even if you don't post your makes, I do encourage you to do that, especially if you have your own website. But even if you're not going to post there and you're not going to spend the time there to do that, I do really encourage you to go there to build your collections and build your ideas on the different trends and so forth, because they are a plethora of information, and also they do begin the starts of trends. And that's why in the front of your workbook, in 2018, I took a class with the creative director of Pinterest. And one of the things that she gave us was this little chart. And so I've built this little chart to show you when people start searching for that particular time of year. So people start looking for Mother's Day ideas beginning of February. It's not till May. They continue to look for Mother's Day ideas until the end of June. Let's look at Black Friday. So people begin looking for Black Friday ideas, things that are going to be on sale for Black Friday and so forth. They start looking in July. They don't stop looking for that until January. So thinking about that in the manner of, say I'm going to be doing a release um, that is all around football. All right. I'm going to be doing a release that, I don't know if you guys follow Katie from My Little Shindig, who has her different sports floral designs. But if she really wanted to focus on, like, how can I get the most traction for that pre order for those sports florals, she would probably begin sharing those in July prior to the game, because people are going to be looking for football-esque things from July through March. Okay, so the way that Pinterest works is we build dreams on Pinterest. That's the way they say. So people are building it there, and people shop more from Pinterest than any other platform. Don't let Instagram fool you. So this is a really great tool to just have for yourself when you're thinking about this. Does that make sense, everybody? So let me just make sure that I haven't missed anything. What I would recommend you do now, if you're following through and you're like doing this with us, is that you at least have your color that you plan on focusing on. Because we're going to go and we're going to use Pinterest to build an aesthetic around that color. Okay, this is where it's a little bit different than the last time around. I want to kind of show you how you can build like a mood board or a brand board for a release right on Pinterest. Okay. All right. So I'm going to try to get you guys closer. I really need to figure out, again, elder millennial. So I have to figure out how would I have a split screen for you all. I have no idea, but maybe eventually I will learn how to do this. But we're gonna tilt down here. I'm gonna turn it like so. Erin, yes, it will be posted for 30 days, Erin. So you'll be able to rewatch. All right. So first thing I'm going to do here is this is my Pinterest feed. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to just type in exactly what I'm thinking. So African violet color palette aesthetic. And I always spell aesthetic wrong. It knows what I mean. And when I bring this up, it's going to now show so many different color palettes. I'm a very visual person, so really knowing like kind of what does that palette look like visually really, really helps me. So I'm going to go down through here and I'm kind of going to see what I like the most. Oh, I like this berry one. So I kind of like that, even though it doesn't have the purple in it. We want the purple here. Ooh, I like that, but it's monochromatic. I want something that has a little bit more colors going on in it. This is really pretty. And of course, it's not going to bring up the whole picture. That's the only thing about Pinterest, is it doesn't always let you have the whole picture. It's because it's plates, Jenna. Let's see. Let's do this one. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this. Other than saving it to, I'm taking a screenshot for a specific reason. If I was building this actual like color palette around this, or like a trend report around it for myself, I would actually create a board and save it there. But I'm not going to do that right now. I want to kind of go in here and I'm going to go African violet color, and I'm going to put sewing and bag DIY and see what comes up. Now, when I went through a lot of my magazines, this is something I kind of keep in mind, is if I'm seeing, specifically for bag making, if I'm seeing a lot of silhouettes of certain types of bags, this is where I would start kind of tagging, like, so there's a lot of clamshell going on. So this would be one that I would tag. This is a way that you could kind of put some patterns in a board for yourself, so that you have some ideas. Even if you're going to design, this is great for people who are designing patterns. Talk about someone being on trend. If you saw the Evergreen Threads release, a lot of these cinched bags are coming back. Over the next year, we're going to see a lot of those. I'm just going to take, sometimes you don't need certain words. So I just put violet. Bows are going to continue to be, oh, I don't need to go to sharing. Bows are going to continue to be, like I said, part of the aesthetic. I could put It's more like a boho quilted. I use the word aesthetic a lot because it really allows you to pull more than just one type of thing. So now we're seeing a lot of like what was in that picture where it's like a lot of quilted color, which is what I was hoping I would bring up. Like here, this is definitely one where we're dealing with a lot of monochromatic and frills. That definitely will be something that I would pin. But this is basically for you to kind of go down the rabbit hole and kind of build out what pieces do you want to pull into the collection. So this would definitely be a collection that was more scrappy, like here, clamshell, there again, this type of look. My son's talking to Apollo. Here, you know, mini bags, boho pouches. So that would be how I would kind of take from the color to Pinterest. Some of the words that I was finding, like when I'm like looking through here, let me see if I patchwork quilted, those types of things were really showing up, like words that I was using. So because Pinterest is a search engine, using some of those words will really help you pull up what you're looking for to build an aesthetic. And so I would build a board for myself, and I would have my colorways. And so in your workbook, the way that this is laid out, so I have my colors, and then over here I'm kind of figuring out my brand. So I'm going with like, what are my 3 descriptive words? So boho, quilted. You know, I might be pulling something else that I could have here. Bold, like I'd have bold colors. And then what are the 3 products I want to sell? So maybe I'm going to focus on a clamshell bag. Maybe I'm going to focus on quilted headbands. You know, like that would be where I would decide my top 3 products. I also try to figure out like what are my top 3 fashion brands personally, to just see if they have anything going on in that genre, because that usually tells me, is it something that I would personally buy, and am I going to be excited about selling? And then here is where we're doing our trend search to just kind of see, where does it show up? Is it showing up elsewhere? Every trend has been done before, you guys, and that's basically why you can predict trends now. Is it's fairly easy to predict a trend because they have created them. You know, there's a 20-year rule, so every 20 years things come back, but they come back in a different way. All right, I do sometimes use Etsy, so I could go here to Etsy and type in, let's see, scrap quilted bag patterns. And I'll get a whole bunch of the bag patterns or scrap quilt type of ideas. I can also type in trending quilted gifts, and a whole other thing pops up. These here in the quilted world, we see them everywhere, right? So this is just a way to kind of confirm for yourself, but also help you like know, well, these things are also selling, they're on Etsy. And don't get weirded out by saying like, oh, someone else is doing it, who's going to buy mine? There's plenty of room for everybody. And so it's all about your brand and what you're about, and that's what sells it. All right, so now that we did that part, I want to just talk to you a little bit about this. So this is the Pinterest Predicts. They come out with this every year. And Pinterest basically says these are the different aesthetics or trends that we foresee being the big ones for 2025. It usually comes out, I want to say it usually comes out towards mid-December. And so I highly suggest trying to follow this. What I wanted to share here with this one this time, as you go down through, you're going to see the way I use this. I might not be doing this exact um, kind of genre, all right? But I know that cherries were going to be big, and that's why we have some cherry fabric. And if you look down here, this is how Pinterest says these are going to be these are going to be trends for the year. So Cherry Vibe there was a 325% increase in searches for Cherry Vibe towards the end of 2024. So that's how they know. Dark Cherry Red, 235% uptick in searches. So this is how they know that these are going to be trends for the next year. They just give them names and kind of have things around them. But like Aurora Effect, there was a big surge in that. Full color makeup eyes. So people using more color and makeup, and that area as well also translates into a variety of other areas in fashion. So what I did, I did take this Sea Witch. This was Sea Witchery was one of them. I screenshotted this picture and then I took it over to ChatGPT. Now, again, paid ChatGPT is where you can pop in pictures. Now, I have created a list of ideas of how to incorporate this aesthetic trend into a handmade bag collection, include recommended patterns and types of fabrics to use. So, here she is. The Pearl Pod, a rounded pouch or clamshell inspired shape. So it gives you patterns. Clam Up by Annie Uren. It says fabrics to use iridescent vinyl or shimmer faux leather, satin or silk charmeuse lining, quilted pearl stitch details. Add pearl zipper pulls, add a mini LED glow bead insert, then here's Moonlit Tide Crossbody, sleek crescent shaped crossbody with moon phase embellishments. Yarrow Whistlet and Pouch by Noodlehead, modify it to a crescent shape. Callisto Crossbody by Bagstop Patterns. It says fabrics, holographic marine colored vinyl, iridescent linen cotton canvas, glow in the dark thread for embroidery, sheer overlays, moon charm, metallic webbing strap, pearl snaps. It gave me so many ideas for different bags that I could build an entire collection off of the Sea Witchery aesthetic. And then it also says color palette recommendations: lavender pearl, seafoam green, deep abyss blue, moonlit lilac, soft pink coral, holographics, oil slick black. Other embellishments I could add: shell quilting motifs, beaded or chain strap option, embroider constellations, applique moon phases or waves, resin encased ocean charms. So it gave me all these ideas to build an entire collection off of this trend. So again, AI can be your friend. Let's use it for the right things. Build your own art. I'm all about that. But this definitely it allows you to build a whole trend of ideas. So I highly recommend using that. And that's something new I wanted to share this time around. Does that make anybody excited? I don't. That one made me excited. If I was still building bag collections, I would totally be using that. And it doesn't have to be that you're taking that picture from Pinterest. It could be that maybe you have a series of fabrics that you purchased and you're like, what could be a bag series or a bag collection that I could create that would be on trend within this aesthetic for my shop? You can take a picture of those fabrics, pop them in the chat GPT, and ask it to build you a bag collection release with recommended patterns. And there you go. So that's the chat GPT route. The other thing that I did want to show that I did show last time, and I do find this one to be really helpful. If you're not, I find I'm a long-term planner. I like to plan way in advance and way ahead. If you're not that, there are ways to use Pinterest for trends that will be coming within the next month or so. So what I like to show, and this is different on your phone, and I believe when you go on your phone, it's going to be under the little search on Pinterest. There's a little search area on Pinterest. You click on that, and then at the very top of your page, there's like a swipe of pictures. That's where it's at for you. Okay. On the desktop, it's different. So I'm going to show you from desktop. So on desktop, when I go to my Pinterest, and I at the very top of my Pinterest home feed, this is what the top of my Pinterest home feed looks like. Okay. There is always an explore button here. So if I click on explore, these are things to inspire me for today. Okay. And they usually are like, this is seasonal. This is usually, it's basically it changes every day, but you're going to see similarities. If you go in every day, you're going to see similarities, and I'll explain that in a second. So wrong jacket theory, which I have no clue what that is. So these are all trends. And definitely wrong jacket theory is probably a hashtag, but it's basically saying the jacket, I'm guessing the jacket doesn't necessarily go with the outfit. So I'm not sure. Sometimes I'm always like, how did this become a trend? But big jackets are definitely a trend. I've been seeing more and more of that. So I can go down through here, and usually as a bag maker, what I'm looking at on a lot of these anymore is I'm looking at the bag style. Like here, of course, there's chains, there's charms on that one. Here, denim and quilted is showing up. This like half moon shape is showing up. The 90s Guess bag is coming back. That new backpack pattern that just came out that everybody's doing in corduroy, that's definitely very on trend. Here's another Louis Vuitton kind of clamshell half moon bag. So that's usually what I look at when I like click on some of these, is if it is fashion related, I'll usually look mostly at bags. The other one, denim days, like I said, denim. And there's a lot of things right now that have to do with Coachella, because Coachella is happening right now. So concerts, anything that's happening at Coachella. Look at this. This is actually for this week. Bag charms. Told you guys. Bag charms are the rage. So this is very much the vibe right now. Sometimes I'll look like this one, like there usually is a lot, because if you think about Pinterest, it's usually used a lot to like plan for vacations. So sometimes I'll look at these and kind of see like different times a year, you're going to see different types of photography. So I'm also looking at color here. So sometimes like this here, like is more like our oranges and sunsets and things like that. What I want to do this time of year, if I did a bag collection that was more about like the road trip, right? And so you might have a backpack, you might have a lunch bag, you might have a bag for your dog, right? So kind of looking at those and getting inspired from pictures there. And then down here, it'll show you like yesterday's, what was in that. And then they also always have like shopping spotlights, which whenever you click on these, like here, pastel home decor, all of this is, you can go purchase it. But I'll usually look and see, like, is there any detailed decor that I've been seeing elsewhere in magazines? Definitely this time of year, you see a lot of bunnies and birdies, you know, but it can kind of make you think, you know, what would I maybe do next spring that would fall within this aesthetic? Look, there's a sea witch. There's going to be a lot of nautical stuff this summer, I think, you guys. And chickens. There's going to be a lot of chicken stuff. And goosies. So that's how you use that. Like I said, it's a different place when you go on using your phone. I think you have to go to the search area and then it should come up at the very top and it's like a swipe situation instead of a scrolling situation. Okay. So that's that. All right. How are we doing, everybody? How are we doing? All right. So main thing that I want you to do, basically what your homework is if you have the workbook, I highly recommend that you start with your color palette, that you try to come up with a color, but I want you to think about the next release you're going to do. Okay. What is the next release you're going to do? And like the time frame of that. So is it this summer you have a plan to do a market, or maybe it's the next time that the place that you have a consignment area, like they're going to change for a season. If there's a time period of when you want to release another series of bags or product, when is that? All right. And then from there, that can help you think about the seasons, the time of year, the emotions that go with that time of year. Emotion is a big reason why people buy. Um, and that can help you start with finding out what is the color you want to start with and building your color palette from there. So your homework today is to definitely work on your color palette for your next release. Okay. From there, it's building out your color story. So what are the descriptive words that you're finding in your magazines, or maybe you're just using Pinterest and you're seeing a lot of the same type of word when you type in the aesthetic that you want to do, or you threw in you took a picture of the fabrics you're going to use and put that in Chat GPT and asked it to build a collection for you. What are some of the words you're pulling there? Because those are search engine optimization words. Okay. So you're going to put those up here. Then you're going to think about your 3 products. I say this all the time to bag makers who are doing vendor events, but it works with any time you release any product, it works with any business. It is a lot for your customer to digest if you are talking about different things all the time. So if you have 3 main products that you want to sell, an example for us is that we have our print fabric, we have our dyed fabric, and another area for us is our dynamic fabric kits or our accessories that kind of pull things together. So at least 3 main products that you're going to talk about all the time. So for a bag maker, that could be 3 silhouettes that you know that you love to create, that you love to make, and 3 silhouettes that you kind of have the ability to transform them with every aesthetic. Okay. You might switch one out to be a very trendy silhouette. So maybe you always have a bucket bag, maybe you always have a crossbody bag, and now because you're doing this kind of sea nautical theme for your next release, you're going to do like the clamshell as well. It's okay to interchange one of them out here and there, but it's really important to try to focus on 3 main products themes so that you're not confusing your audience, and it definitely helps with aesthetically how it looks. And also, if you have a consignment place, it also helps you to know like what types of display setup, like racking, works for you. So that also is really helpful. Understanding what your favorite fashion brands are, where do you usually gravitate to, it can help you stay really solid on what is your brand voice. And then also doing your searches to try to see like, are you finding other ideas elsewhere? Is it something that's showing up? And then at the very bottom, I just have like, is there a season for your aesthetic? And that basically could be like, okay, this is more summery, it's bold, bright colors, or maybe it's more of a fall vibe, and so forth. On here, this here little area, this is really just for you to visually draw or write out things. What is the mood? That also like ChatGPT as well as Pinterest can help with wording there. What are the textures you saw? So like I was sharing with you, there's a lot of dainty lace. There's a lot of kind of this like very masculine, feminine vibe. I could put those types of things here. Color palettes. What are the color palettes that I was seeing? And then these are horrible sketches, but sketch out some designs. If I was seeing that half moon everywhere, I would put the half moon. It helps you go back to remembering, like, maybe I'm not going to make a half moon shaped bag, but maybe I'm going to quilt it in half moons. And that pulls that in there. So to do that piece. And then tomorrow we'll work on like, how are you building out and producing it and marketing it. But at least get to the page where you're kind of building out your release, so that tomorrow we can talk a little bit more about the marketing aspect of it. That sound good? I hope that this was helpful. If you were here the first time, I hope that it was a little bit of some different takes and some different ideas on things to use. I wanted to purposely talk about a very different, like, get new magazines and go through the process all over again for everyone. If you do have any questions about any of this, I am always available. Feel free to pop questions here in the comments on YouTube, or to, join me over on Instagram. Shoot me a DM over there if you have questions, or if you want to show me what you're thinking. I love diving down that hole with anybody and everyone. So feel free to do that. But this is really, I feel like it's one of the areas whenever I sit and talk with handmade makers who maybe haven't had a background in business, but also a background in particularly how do they build like a cohesive collection design wise, that I find many times is really helpful for them. So that's why I wanted to offer this and offer it for free, so that as many people who wanted to learn how to do this could do it themselves. So with that, I will say thank you. I will remind you all that if you do not have a fabric sample pack of ours, you want to head to our website. I can give you the fabric FAQ page. Okay, so that is where you will find the coupon code to get your fabric sample pack for free. All you do is pay your shipping, and our pre-order does start for the summer print fabrics. It does start on April 23rd. And I use this technique that I've done these workshops on when I'm building each season's print designs. I'm looking at when you look at the collections, if you look at fabric collections on our website, I'm building each of those collections is me looking at a specific genre and aesthetic, because I know that my aesthetic personally of what I would make things out of is not necessarily what everyone else would. Where I feel my connection to my customers comes of like who I'm selling fabric to is people who want organic, US milled, and eco-friendly printed fabric. That's the base of my business. Okay. But when it comes to these collections, the other base of my business is building collections that are really what is on trend, or what is projected to be on trend. And for those collections to then speak to you in whatever way they work for your craft and your design. And if you do have a handmade business, for you to have things that are trending for others to see in your handmade makes and be like, oh, I've been seeing silly goose everywhere. There's fabric for that, and there's a charm for that, and there's tags for that. So when you go to our website and look at the fabric collections, and particularly for our print pre-order, which will again start April 23rd through May 16th. So make sure you have a fabric sample pack if you'll be joining us for that. All right, everyone. I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much for joining me today. I will be back tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the second piece of this, which is really building out your marketing and sales plan and production plan for creating your release. Okay. And then these videos will stay up for 30 days that you'll be able to go back to them. Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. And I hope you have a great evening.